All right. You ready to do this thing? Not sure if I am, but let's go. I got nothing else to lose, right? Why do I do this to myself? Haldo! Happy holidays, everybody. Well, I don't know about you, but I am feeling pretty friggin' good today. Got the nice, cozy red thinking chair here, the fake fire going, and the slightly less fake Christmas tree up there. And now that I never have to hear from Evil Santa or his family again, finally, after 6 long years, I'm gonna get to have a normal Christmas. I always look forward to doing these Christmas specials, not just because Christmas is my favorite time of the year, but a lot of you guys have been so kind and so courteous to me, and I can't think of a more appropriate time to give back and express my gratitude. But these videos also prove to be a challenge because, you know, it's the holidays, and I can't just throw some random video together and expect you guys to eat it up. You deserve something extra special. So I have to put all my time and effort into it, pour every fiber of my being into every paragraph, every second, until it's absolutely perfect, even if it kills me. Which almost happened a couple times. I love you guys too much, I'm so sorry. But what makes a Christmas review truly special has almost everything to do with the games I talk about. Now, I used to have a tradition on my channel where I would talk about the most recent Mario-related game during my Christmas specials, but this sort of created a problem for me. For some years, I might have already done a big new game for Summer of Mario, so I'd have to wait and see if something even bigger comes out closer to winter. Then there might be years where we don't necessarily get a Super Mario Odyssey or a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And Knuckles. And in these situations, I'd have to think long and hard about what I could possibly do. This was one of those times. Nowadays, it doesn't really matter to me whether a game is recent or not, just as long as it's Mario related and something my viewers would really want to see. Then, back in September, something occurred to me. There's one particular aspect of this franchise that, to this point, I've yet to cover in detail. A series of RPGs that I could either A, split up into multiple reviews and release for next year's Summer of Mario, or B, cram them all into one big video and make it a Christmas special, giving me only 3 months to do by the time I'd have to start recording footage. Yes, that's completely insane and extremely stupid. But I did it, didn't I? I might be a little late when this video comes out, but here we are. We're finally talking about the Mario and Luigi series. God, it seems like I've had people practically begging me to review these games for as long as my channel's been around, particularly when I covered the first 3 Paper Mario games during Summer of Mario over 2 years ago. So, if you're one of those people, rejoice! If you stopped watching me since then, well, I don't really blame you. My videos are kind of terrible. I said I would get to these games eventually, but I've always held off on it because I hadn't really played them all that much. I've been aware of this series for a long time, but before I started making this video, I'd only played a little bit of Superstar Saga, I'd never played Partners in Time, my brother had Bowser's Inside Story, and neither of us got very far in it. I played the demo of Dream Team, and Paper Jam brought back memories I wished I could forget. I didn't have a lot of experience with RPGs growing up, and at that time, Paper Mario was all I really needed to get my role-playing fix. Until they started to suck. So it's not like I didn't care about these games, I just felt more comfortable sticking with what I already knew. But now I wish I could have given them the time that they deserve, because I'm sure I would have loved them too.
despite being the obsessive Paper Mario zealot that I was.
Dude, jeez, get out of here. Ugh.
The Mario and Luigi games were created by Alpha Dream, a team that consisted of former Square employees, including most of the same people that worked on Super Mario RPG. And you can see just how much that game is rooted in the series' DNA. The wild storytelling, the tongue-in-cheek humor, the character designs. It even takes some inspiration from Paper Mario, so you could say that Mario and Luigi almost kind of feels like an amalgamation of Mario's other role-playing games, which makes it that much more unique.
After a 20-year sibling rivalry, Mario and Luigi team up using synchronized super moves in their most ridiculous adventure ever.
Bruh, they literally swim around Bowser's guts in the third game, but running around a field? Oh, dude, that's totally ridiculous.
I should mention that Ant Dude also has an entire series retrospective on his channel, but that's just a compilation of reviews that he'd already done. I'm not taking the easy way out. I'm putting 5 videos worth of work into this one video, completely starting from scratch. And while the Paper Mario series constantly changed up the formula from one game to the next, I figured that the Mario and Luigi games would be different in some ways, but similar enough so that I could get away with covering them all in just one video. Sort of like my Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, and Dr. Mario retrospectives. And while they are similar in terms of gameplay and combat, in hindsight, I think I might have really underestimated just how different they would be. How am I still alive?
Well, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's kick things off appropriately enough with the very first game in the series, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. It opens with an ambassador from the Bean Kingdom arriving at Princess Peach's castle to present her with a gift. But that ain't no ambassador, that's our main villain, Cackletta. Joining her is her henchman Fawful, who sprays Peach with this mysterious green gas that causes her to pass out. I can only wonder where that gas could have come from. A Toad runs over to the Mario Brothers' house to let them know what's happened, and in one of the most surprising aspects of this game, the first character you're put in control of is neither Mario or Luigi, it's the Toad. And he walks in on a half-naked Mario getting out of the shower.
Ugh, why is it shaped like that?
Spitting everywhere. But when they make it to the castle, another Toad tells them that Peach's voice was stolen and replaced with what they call an explosive vocabulary. It's so bad that Bowser won't even kidnap her, but not because he's worried about her condition. He's more concerned about the safety of his castle. So he offers to fly Mario and Luigi to the Bean Kingdom on his Koopa Cruiser so that they can figure out how to get Peach's voice back. But if we're gonna fly, we'll need to get new pictures for our passports. Perfect.
Yo!
Later, Mario and Luigi are confronted by Cackletta, who orders Fawful to take care of him. He quickly gets his ass handed to him, however, so in retaliation, Fawful blows up the cruiser, causing everyone on board to plummet towards Stardust Fields. After running around for a bit and playing a quick game of jump rope with the Border Brothers, Mario and Luigi find themselves in Hoo Hoo Village, where they're told that the prince of the Bean Kingdom, Prince Peasley, was kidnapped. In reality, Cackletta turns him into this thing called a Drago Hee-Hee to keep him out of the way while she carries out her plan. It's not actually called that, I just really wanted to say Drago Hee-Hee. Fortunately, the Mario Brothers are able to change him back, and eventually they make their way to Bean Castle. But while Mario and Luigi get caught up having to deal with a plumbing emergency, which, to my knowledge, might make this the only Mario game to have them do any actual plumbing, Cackletta manages to steal the Bean Star, the obligatory star-themed MacGuffin for this game. The Bean Star has the power to grant any and all wishes, and of course, with a power like that, it's safe to assume someone's gonna want to use it for evil! To avert this, the people of the Bean Kingdom put it into a deep sleep and made it so that it could only be awoken by the sound of a pure person's voice. That pure person just so happens to be Princess Peach, so Cackletta plans on using her voice to wake up the Bean Star and attain world domination. That doesn't work out well for her because the sound of Peach's voice causes the Bean Star to go berserk and fly away. This gives Mario and Luigi enough time to catch up with Cackaletta and take her down. For now. Wow. But what exactly caused the Beanstar to freak out like a spoiled kid throwing a tantrum because his parents wouldn't let him use his tablet at McDonald's?
That joke's based on a true story, by the way.
Well, when Princess Peach arrives in the Bean Kingdom with her voice completely not stolen, it's revealed that Prince Peasley warned her of Cackaletta's arrival, and that the Peach whose voice was stolen at the start of the game was actually Birdo pretending to be Peach. Huh. This is actually a really good twist. But why they gotta throw Birdo under the bus like that? Are you trying to tell me their voice isn't sweet enough to awaken the Beanstar? Speaking of Cackaletta, what happened to her anyway? Well, after she's initially defeated, Fawful sprays Bowser with this purple gas, allowing Cackaletta's spirit to take his form and turn him into the hilarious but frightening Bowletta. Later, they and Fawful manage to capture Princess Peach, and then Bowletta sends a message via Game Boy Advance hologram. How come my GBA can't do that? Offering to free the princess if Mario and Luigi bring them the Beanstar. But if it plans to return Princess Peach when we give it the Beanstar. Okay, I know Bowletta's the villain here, but that's a bit transphobic, don't you think? I'm skimming over a few details, so I apologize if this summary seems a bit cluttered, but short and to the point, the brothers have to rescue Peach, defeat Bowletta, and keep the Beanstar safe. The plot isn't just a fetch quest where you go collecting star pieces or star spirits or crystal stars or anything like that. It's one big adventure with a basic goal to accomplish. There is a point somewhere near the middle where the Beanstar breaks into pieces that scatter all over the kingdom, but it surprisingly doesn't take very long to find them all, which is oddly kinda refreshing. Superstar Saga tells a very fun story with a lot of fun characters, some of which have become widely beloved among fans. Looking at you, Falafel. But Bubbles' whole shtick about being stuck telling this Chicola Reserve nothing but soda jokes for 1,000 years? That's great. I also really like how Popple acts as the junior Troopa of this game, always showing up at the most unexpected moments to give you hell. And this photographer? Oof, I totally feel that.
My commissions are open! Hit me up! I'm incredibly desperate and I need the money!
And with this being a role-playing game set in the Mario universe, it's gotta have them jokey jokes.
Oh, actually, that reminds me of this really weird publicity stunt that Nintendo pulled to hype up the game's release in North America. So, apparently back in 2003, they held a contest where people could send in knock-knock jokes. Don't ask. And whoever sent in the best one would win a Game Boy Advance SP and a copy of Superstar Saga. And you will never guess who was chosen to pick the winner. Kathy Griffin. I couldn't even make this up if I tried. And you want to know what the winning joke was? Knock knock, who's there? Pencil. Pencil who? Your pencil fall down if you don't wear a belt.
that
was good.
I'm sorry, did I ruin that take?
No, that was great. I'm keeping that.
One gag present across the whole series, starting with this game, revolves around people giving Luigi nicknames like Mr. Green or Green Stash because they have absolutely no idea who he is, but Mario's like a big celebrity that everyone loves. It's funny, but I also kind of feel bad for Luigi. Can you really blame me though? He is my baby after all. Oops, I mean... God, I'm never gonna get tired of using that. At least he gets some moments to shine, especially during the sections where he and Mario are separated. My favorite of these is when Mario gets sick with bean fever and Luigi has to find Krabby Grass to get Mario his strength back, but he's too scared to go out on his own. So scared he can't even jump or use any of his abilities on the overworld. So Kamek hypnotizes him into thinking he's Mario, making him brave enough to get the cure. Sure, he's not exactly himself, but Luigi's still revered for finding it in the end, so he he did a thing. There's also a point in the story where Luigi dresses up as Peach and lets himself get captured by Bowletta instead of the real Peach, which I can't help but feel is a callback to the Super Mario Adventures when he and Peach switch places so that she can blow up Bowser's castle from inside. She's extremely hardcore in those comics. I don't know, maybe it's just a coincidence, but it's a little too specific for me to think of it that way. More obvious nods and references are sprinkled all throughout the game, and finding them was not a difficult task. You'll start as early as the title screen, since the Super Mario Advance version of Mario Bros. Is included as a separate mode, which is kind of appropriate since Superstar Saga also focuses on Mario and Luigi, pretty obvious given their names are in the title, and 2003 was the 20th anniversary of the original Mario Bros. As for the actual adventure, well, there's a room in Woohoo University with blocks from different Mario games like Super Mario World and Super Mario 64. There's another area themed after the Donkey Kong arcade game. There are side-scrolling sections paying homage to Super Mario Bros., and you fight enemies from all across the franchise like Rexes and even the viruses from Dr. Mario. Oh, I love how they incorporated the viruses. So, they only appear in groups, right? Well, they change color every time you hit them, so red turns to blue, blue turns to yellow, and yellow turns back to red. So the only way you can kill them is by making them all the same color. That is so brilliant. Oh, hey Gino. It doesn't just stop at Mario. The Yoshi Theater has movie posters referencing Kirby, Wario, and the legendary Starfy. There's even a point where one of the Hammerhead Bros says, "Now you're playing with power." Cool, but what kind of power are we talking about here? Portable power? Superpower? Puppy power? But the game doesn't just throw a bunch of references in your face to make up for a lack of substance. I mean, what do you think this is? Space Jam 2?
Now say, I'm hunting rabbits.
This movie sucks! No, there's a lot more to this game than even I could have imagined diving into it for the first time. Since Superstar Saga was made by many of the same people that worked on Super Mario RPG, both games are structured in a very similar way. But while the latter lets you travel to different areas by selecting them on a world map, the former puts you in a giant overworld split into different locations that you can seamlessly travel through. There's also a map feature that gives you a pretty vague idea of where you are and where you're supposed to go. It's nice to have, but admittedly, it's like NFTs. Unreliable and not well executed. Hey, you think I'm an outsider here? Boom! Look at that. Keanu actually agrees with me. See? He gets it. He knows what's going on.
Well,
I remember actually getting lost a couple times, like when I backtracked to a previous area to get some extra goodies, and couldn't find my way back to my last save point once I was ready to move on. You are given more detailed maps during sections that are heavy on puzzle solving, but why couldn't every other location have maps like these? Well, anyway, you control Mario and Luigi at the same time, and each of them are assigned to a singular button. The brother in front is mapped to the A button, and the brother in the back is mapped to the B button. Now, in other Mario role-playing games, Mario is often joined by a party of different characters, each with their own unique abilities. In Superstar Saga, Mario and Luigi are the only... I'm choking on my saliva. Mario and Luigi are the only two characters you have for the entire game, and no other characters join them on their adventure. Each brother can still do things that the other brother can't, but they're mostly variations of the same types of abilities. Jumps, hammers, and elemental powers. If Luigi's in the back, he can bounce off of Mario to perform a high jump, smash him with a hammer to make him flat and get through tight spaces, or zap him with his thunder hand to make them both move slower. If Mario's in the back, he can jump on top of Luigi and spin jump to get them both across wide gaps, use his hammer to bash Luigi into the ground and have him move under certain obstacles, and light him up with his fire hand to make him run faster. There is some individuality between them, so there's never a point where I forget who's supposed to do what, and I'm never asking myself, well, if Mario can do this, why does Luigi need to do that? But switching positions and choosing what the game calls bros actions can be a little confusing. So you can swap the bros around by pressing the start button, and you toggle between actions by using the shoulder buttons. But it's not like you can just scroll through a list of actions with them, like tapping L to go left and R to go right. The L button is used to pick actions for the brother in front to perform, and the R button applies to the brother in the back. With the GBA's limited number of buttons to work with, this setup is fine, but also slightly cumbersome to try and navigate, mainly using start to switch positions since I'm so used to it being a pause button or a menu button, but the menu is mapped to the select button instead, and while I can't deny this is most definitely a me problem, I think it should have been the other way around. This is pretty fun though. I was able to get the hang of it, and once I did, the journey became much more comfortable. What also helped was the way in which you get farther along in the game, and the sheer variety of stuff there is for you to do. Superstar Saga's means of progression often have you taking part in various minigames. Super Mario RPG had these as well, but they were mostly relegated to optional side quests. In this game, not all of them are mandatory, but some are pretty much required to play, like earning enough points in this barrel minigame to get a membership card from Bink and locate a piece of the Beanstar, using Luigi as a surfboard to get to Joke's End. I love this bit, by the way, it's just so funny. Having the brothers working together to climb up out of a warp pipe, which reminded me a lot of The Emperor's New Groove.
I didn't think I'd be referencing that movie twice in this video.
Or shooting bursts of water at Bob-ombs to create fabric designs for Harhal. Oh, look! I made a Homestar Runner shirt.
That is literally so great.
This might be one of my favorite aspects of the game, not just due to how all these different styles of gameplay are utilized, but the minigames themselves are a lot of fun and a nice change of pace. Meanwhile, on the overworld, you can have Luigi dig up beans out of the ground by making him jump up from under these X's. Then you can bring him to the Star Beans Cafe to make beans into juices, and every time you make a new blend, Professor Egad, who runs the place, will reward you with a special item. I didn't have time to try out much of the game's other side quests, same for the sequels, but this was a nice little surprise. When you're not bashing your little brother into the ground, looking for beans, you'll be hitting question blocks and maybe some hidden blocks if you can find them. But there are also different types of blocks that change color to indicate which brother can hit it, or do things like make bridges appear when two of the same block are punched simultaneously. These are also called Simo blocks, which I misread as Simu blocks, immediately making me think of Simu Liu, one of many contributing factors that led me to coming out as bisexual. But of course, this wouldn't be an RPG without some good old-fashioned combat, and Superstar Saga establishes a battle system that would stay mostly consistent for the rest of the series. Like in Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario, battles are turn-based. You touch an enemy on the overworld to engage in battle with them, which is really fun when you can't even see them, and both brothers can use items and badges, which can be bought from shops using coins. While the button mapping on the overworld depends on which positions they're in, during battle, Mario is always on A, and Luigi is always on B. Each of them have their own stat lists pertaining to their heart points, attack, and defense, while speed determines how soon they can attack, stash points determine how often a brother can land lucky hits and deal extra damage, and then there are bro points, which are used to perform bros attacks. To do it successfully, you have to press the A and B buttons at just the right time to execute whatever action is required of you. But Bros attacks also let you choose a difficulty level to perform them at, so you get to decide whether you want to land successful hits more easily at the cost of dealing less damage, or make your attacks trickier to pull off, but have them hit harder if you get it right. By performing Bros attacks enough times, regardless of which skill levels you pick, they can evolve into super attacks, and you'll notice when you see this little advanced graphic pop up. Other Bros attacks can be unlocked after learning Bros actions on the overworld, and these are especially great to use against enemies weak to certain types of attacks, like fire or thunder-based ones. At the start of each turn, one brother will make their move, then the other brother will have a go, and then it's the opponent's turn. But Mario and Luigi can jump to dodge enemy attacks, and with good timing, perform a counterattack by jumping on top of them or bonking them with their hammer. Enemies will indicate which brother they're going after if they're not targeting both of them at once. Mario and Luigi will gain experience points from winning battles and level up after passing a certain threshold. Then, like in the first two Paper Mario games, you can pick a stat and add some extra points to it, but how much is added depends on which number the roulette stops on. Compared to other Mario RPGs, This battle system is certainly much more reaction-based. Ever hear of this game called Tomato Adventure? Me neither, but apparently it was another Alpha Dream project that had a massive influence on Superstar Saga's development. Its battle system in particular had you partaking in a series of bite-sized mini-games to execute certain attacks. Yeah. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Well, I can appreciate how they were able to take this concept and morph it into something really unique and inventive for the Mario franchise. However, as much as I really do like what they came up with here, the combat does sort of get a little repetitive. Maybe this is just my Paper Mario bias kicking in, but I felt the first two games gave you a lot more options to consider. Thousand Year Door came out after this game, so that might not be a fair comparison, but the original still had the benefit of the partner system, which let you experiment with tons of different characters and movesets and added a wider degree of strategy. Superstar Saga encourages you to work within your limitations. It's supposed to be its own thing, and I respect it for that. I just wish there was a little more to it. I also wish I'd properly prepared myself to face some of these bosses. The one that took me the longest was the fight with Popple and Birdo, only because I ran out of items to replenish my BP, so I couldn't use any of my bros attacks anymore, meaning I had to rely on normal attacks to finish the job, which isn't ideal for bosses with as much HP as these guys. I also found it weird how Birdo kept putting Popple in a giant egg to protect him, even after he's already beaten.
Beaten like an egg? Come on, you gotta admit, that was nowhere near as bad as that pencil joke.
You know what is bad? Roy's fight. It just plain sucks. So when you make it to the end, you gotta get past the Koopalings in order to get to Bowletta. The first couple fights aren't so tough, but then there's this sunglass-wearing sack of air. Every time I had to dodge his fireballs, I always got the timing right with Luigi, but for some reason, it's incredibly strict with Mario. There's also a bomb the whole time, and if you don't beat Roy after a certain number of turns go by, the bomb will detonate and you get a game over. It doesn't matter how much HP you have, that's it. You lose. Game over, man. Game over!
I didn't want this to be another Mario RPG situation where I would just give up, download a completed save file off the internet, and then skip ahead to the final boss. So, what did I do? Well, because I was using BizHawk to emulate it, I had my brother Mike help me get cheats enabled so that I could take out the rest of the Koopalings with just one hit. I don't feel too bad about it because I got through the rest of the game without using cheats and made it pretty close to the end. Plus, I don't care. And f*** you, Roy. I also don't feel bad about using emulation since I do have legal copies of every Mario and Luigi game, and emulation is just better for ease of access and getting higher quality footage. But I think BizHawk might have had a problem with me using cheats because once I got past the credits and went back to the title screen, this happened. Oh dear.
Well, overall, I think Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is pretty good. Areas can be a little too spacious and somewhat forgettable in terms of layout, and battles can get a bit stale after a while. On the other hand, I really got a kick out of the story and the characters. The writing in general is on point. Mario and Luigi can be quite versatile, and it's just great to finally get a Mario RPG where the two of them are working together, as opposed to Mario being the hero while Luigi is sort of brushed off to the side. I also find the art style super charming. The designers took inspiration from the original Paper Mario, and you can kinda see it with the backdrops and some of the character designs. While I find Paper Mario's aesthetic a little more appealing, again, maybe that's just me being biased, Superstar Saga still looks great, and sounds great too, for that matter. Yoko Shimomura is a composer whose work I greatly admire, and after she lent her musical talents to the Super Mario RPG soundtrack, she's done it again for this game, and for the rest of the series. It's just a joy to listen to, some of my favorite tracks being the title screen, the battle theme, Hoo Hoo Village, Bean Bean Outskirts, the credits theme, and all of her delightful little remixes of classic Mario tunes make my heart grow 3 sizes.
Well, or maybe that's just cardiomegaly. Oh, I should definitely go see a doctor. Oh, too late.
Well, I look forward to hearing more of Yoko's work as we move on to the rest of the games. But lest we forget about the remake released for the Nintendo 3DS in 2017, titled Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. I won't spend that much time talking about the main game, but I did notice a fair amount of improvements, some of which are based on the other Mario and Luigi 3DS games we'll be talking about later. Obviously, the graphics were given a new coat of paint, but now the controls have been simplified so that the game automatically switches Mario and Luigi's positions based on whatever Bros action you want to perform. And on top of that, you can use the touchscreen to pick between them. You can also press the X button to have Mario and Luigi jump at the same time. You can save your progress from wherever you are on the overworld. There's a guide option for you to see how certain actions work. You can fast forward through cutscenes by holding down the R button. And you have a much more detailed map visible on the bottom screen that you can even put pins on! Oh, and there's a new feature where you can collect stamps by scanning amiibo figures into the game. Rad. But those are just some of the many other additions that help make this the definitive version of Superstar Saga for me. Honestly, I don't think I can even go back to the original after playing this one. Even the remastered soundtrack is great, with a few minor exceptions. Fawful's theme uses this trumpet sample that goes down on the end of a phrase, and it just doesn't sound as nice as it did in the GBA game. As for the Bowser's Minion subtitle, well, that refers to a new campaign exclusive to the remake called Minion Quest: The Search for Bowser. The story focuses on, well, Bowser's minions as they go out to rescue their leader after the Koopa Cruiser crashes and sends everyone on board flying all over the place. It's not particularly deep, it's more like a fun little side story that gives us a glimpse into what these characters go through while Mario and Luigi are off on their adventure. And the ways in which it ties into the main plot are pretty neat. Mario and Luigi find the Bean Bean Castle Town in ruins when they first arrive, but here we actually get to see Fawful and Cackaletta destroy it. Egad talks about opening the Star Beans Cafe because he wants to use it to fund his ghost research. We even get to see characters from later games, like Private Goomp, who's retroactively revealed to be one of the first two Goombas that the Mario Brothers fought in the original Superstar Saga. Oh god, those fangirls are back too. Wait, what's she saying? I'd love for Bowser to kidnap me. How fun would that be? You have Stockholm Syndrome. Since we have a new cast of characters to work with, the gameplay in this mode is also quite different. Progression is mission-based, and you go through a series of battles using teams composed of enemies like Koopa Troopas and Hammer Brothers. The opposing team consists of Cackaletta's minions, and you win by taking out their team's captain. But if your captain gets hit too many times, then you lose. These battles are fought automatically, so you don't really have that much influence over how they play out. You don't get to choose which enemies to target or which of your teammates gets to attack. You can perform the occasional action command once the game says you can, and as the captain, you can also perform captain commands that are activated by tapping them on the touchscreen or pressing the D-pad in the direction that correlates with a specific command. These can do things like give your teammates a morale boost and make them more likely to attack, or prevent opponents from using action commands of their own. As you go from one mission to the next, you'll recruit more minions to fight alongside, and even new captains to lead their own squads. Minion Quest also uses a rock, paper, scissors style of comparing strengths and weaknesses. Ranged troopers throw weapons and projectiles and are strong against flying types, which attack from above and are strong against melee troopers, which charge into enemies and make them strong against ranged troopers. In between missions, you can give your troops added enhancements by feeding them beans and rearrange your squad layouts based on which fighters are most appropriate for a given mission. I really enjoyed Minion Quest for its narrative and how it ties into Superstar Saga, and gameplay-wise, it's a pretty decent distraction. I can't imagine spending too many hours on it, but even though it's much smaller than the main game, I'd still recommend you give it a look.
Jesus, we're over half an hour in and we just finished talking about the first game. Well, I guess that means we can move on to the next one.
No, hold up. Okay. I know a lot of you have said that you'd be okay with sitting through a near 2-hour long video, but this is proving to be quite a challenge for me in terms of editing, so to make things easier for myself, and also maybe to make them easier to digest, I've decided to split this video up into parts. Think of this as like the Beatles Get Back documentary, only far less interesting. So, this is the end of part 1, and I'm going to get started on part 2 and part 3 as soon as possible. So, for now, I'd like to thank my superstar supporters for this month, Red Rack, Henry Newman, Rachel Rodriguez, and Jake Winans. Normally, I'd talk about the other Patreon and YouTube membership stuff, but really, I just want to get back to work. So, for now, I'll just say thanks for watching part 1, and I'll see you guys in part 2, where we talk about the Nintendo DS games, Partners in Time, and Bowser's Inside Story. So, yeah, I'll see you guys then. Bye! Ooh.